Let's talk about loving yourself in the face of rejection. How do you love yourself if you're someone who's dealt with an immense amount of rejection? Because oftentimes we'll look at that rejection as the default setting in our life after we've experienced it. So how do we get back to loving ourselves in the face of rejection? Let's talk about it. Hi, guys. My name is Crystal Turner. I help leaders and healers to overcome their past traumas and pain so that they can work in their mission and not burn out in the process. So, I want to talk about loving self after rejection because what I do know is that oftentimes when we are people who are givers and lovers and wanting to affect change in the world, we've often come from some form of pain, and that's where that passion comes from. So, for many people, this can look like having been rejected and really being on this path of trying to figure out how to love yourself. And the thing about that is that we won't come to loving ourselves just by doing good for other people. We have to learn to love ourselves by getting back to ourselves. So I want to give you 3 tips on ways to start loving yourself even if you've been through rejection that has really been painful for you. So the first thing that I would suggest when it comes to loving yourself and how to love yourself in the face of rejection is to really be at this point of admiring who it is that you are. Because this sounds simple, but oftentimes, if you really think about it, what is something that you admired about yourself deep down, but maybe that very thing you've admired has been something that people have ridiculed or teased you about or, judged you in relationship to that. And then that makes you feel bad about this possibly very good quality that you have. And that is because the people who may judge or shun or not appreciate it, they are in that very space of not really valuing a good quality. And this doesn't have to do with where you are. This has to do with where they are. But this video isn't about getting people to be in the right place for you. This is about honoring who it is that you are. So if there is some really good quality you've had, maybe you're a very nice person, and there have been people who have taken that kindness for weakness. And so that makes you feel like being nice isn't good. This is a skewed concept because being nice and being kind is a very powerful and very strong quality to have. So before we talk about all the things that could come with having boundaries around that, the first thing is to acknowledge that this is actually a good quality that's needed in our world today, especially if you're someone who is working to support people in healing, whatever way that may look for you, or to support people through authentic leadership. There is a level of kindness that is lacking for many people in the world. And so, because it's lacking and because of the type of world or experiences we could see around us, there are people who can take that very strong quality for granted. But does that mean that you push that quality to the side? It's important to go back to that quality, remember why you have admired that about yourself, and put that back in motion, that way of being. The biggest thing about some of these great qualities is knowing how to have boundaries, and that's something we can talk about in another video. But the first thing is to get back connected with this quality that you did admire and to remember why you admired those qualities, where you've seen those good qualities really have good effects for yourself or for other people around you. So that's number one. That's the number one way to be able to love yourself in the face of rejection. The second way that you can love yourself in the face of rejection is to have compassion for yourself. The reason I say have compassion for yourself when you've been rejected is because there's a lot of pain and self-judgment that can come when people outside of you judge you for who it is that you really are authentically. It can be a way that self hate comes into the picture. Uh, Self rejection can come into the picture because if someone has mistreated or rejected or criticized this person that you are, you can feel shame about it. But the truth is, when we get back to really embracing and admiring who we really are, then we can also have compassion for those times when we haven't shown up for ourselves to defend that person that we are, that great quality type of person that you embody. You can sometimes be pressured to think like the people outside of you and to then feel ashamed about who you are and also not defending who you really are and changing up. So it's having this compassion for yourself. And think about this, when there's someone who you really truly love and they make mistakes, you tend to show them compassion, you tend to give them grace, but we can be our hardest critics. We can be the hardest on ourselves. So, this practice of having compassion for yourself, of thinking about who you are, and, yeah, you might have made a mistake and not stood up for yourself or not honored yourself in some way. And that could have made you be very critical of yourself. And the outcomes of that criticism aren't usually a positive outcome. It really echoes the starting process of self hatred. But when you start to have compassion for yourself and give yourself a hug and think about, well, what did I learn from these experiences? And tell yourself it's okay because you can always have another chance to do better, then this is an act of self love. And this is a big part of loving yourself in the face of rejection, is that you are the one doing the work of loving yourself and giving yourself grace and not looking for that from people outside of you first. And my last point that I wanted to make is to surround yourself with the types of people who would mirror what it is that you would do for people when you really are loving other people. So sometimes this can be hard initially because if you are really holding on to a lot of self-rejection, sometimes your relationships will mirror what you're feeling inside. So as you're doing these other two steps, this step of admiring yourself, and then this next step of having compassion for yourself, starting to have those actual types of relationships outside of you, being intentional. So this can look like moving away from the relationships where you're still seeing this pattern of judgment or rejection or some type of disrespect, and moving toward the relationships that really are mirroring what you're working on within yourself. Those will come to you in a stronger way when you are truly embodying it. But while you're in the process, you can still be someone who is actively and intentionally choosing who you have around you, because that's going to also speak to how you feel about yourself. When you really start getting to this point of loving yourself, there are certain behaviors around you that won't be acceptable anymore to you. But it's a practice and it's a process. So, in the process, there is this very active part that you can do with intention. It may actually take more intention and thought about it initially, but in that you will see the effects. So, before we close out, I want to end this video by going over some affirmations that you can utilize to help root you and ground you in how you are feeling, because this is very important in terms of what we bring into our life. So, if either of these sound good to you, I want you to use these to help challenge how to love yourself in the face of rejection. Okay, so the first one is, I am worthy of love. I'm going to say that again. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of love. The next one is, I am divine. Love radiates through me. I am divine. love radiates through me. Our I am is very important because whatever we say after that is really what we're saying that we are. So I am divine, love radiates through me. And the last one is I am love. I am love. I am love. Use one of these or all of these and give yourself a 5-minute period to anchor yourself in this affirmation and to make sure you're connecting the emotion of how that makes you feel along with thinking about it, because that is how we really root ourselves in a thing, is that emotion that we're connecting with it. It does no good if we're saying I am love and you're not connected to that emotion at all. Really thinking about that and allowing the emotion of being loved to imbue through you, because at the end of the day, what it is that we are being is what we're going to see more of in our world, and what's going to be in a frequency with you, and you be attracted to it because of that. So this is a reminder that when we are rooting our nervous system, what we're rooting it in, that's going to be the foundation. So if our nervous system is wobbly, then our whole house is at risk of falling down. So in this season, we are rooting ourselves in a more stable and even nervous system. I will see you in the next video. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Take care.